Everything on.
Yep. The red button's on, so
Hello? This isn't though.
it should be if it's lit up.
It's on, yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'll call the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. We need to take care of some just regular business. First of all, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any additions or corrections? The ones that were emailed out?
No.
Do I have a motion to
I
approve?
so move.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the meeting, the minutes from the previous meeting be approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The other thing is the proof of publication. Have you all, that's been passed around. Is there a motion for that to be put
I
into
so
the
move.
minutes? Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And does that also include the mailing?
Yeah, and
Proof
also
of
there's a
mailing?
mailing notice of this public hearing. Has everybody had a chance to look at that?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to put that into the record?
Again, I so move.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, today, the petition before the board is Dolly Gamble and Mark are requesting a special exception / variance to operate an occupation at 833 North 10th Street, Decatur, Indiana, which is located in an R1 zoning classification. And this is in reference to City Code sections 150.042 and 150.621 and 150.278. First thing is the applicant will present the request to the board. And Roger, is that microphone on there?
Yeah.
Okay. So state your name and address and...
Mark Gamble, 839 North 10th Street, Decatur.
Okay. Would you, present what you want us to do or what you're doing?
833 North 10th Street, work on cars out of my garage.
Okay. Is there, you're requesting a special exemption for that? Is it,
Yeah.
does anybody have any questions, Dave?
So you're basically just running a business, you're running your occupation, your
Yeah.
business
Out of my garage.
out of your garage there on that property?
Yep.
Do you do anything other than working on cars?
I haul cars I got a cousin in Kentucky. We buy old muscle cars. And take them to Kentucky. He's got an old Texaco station set up. We put them on eBay and sell them off there.
Do you have anything else to add, or Tim, do you have anything?
No, I think the issue is that there have been complaints made about the length of the business hours and parking both in your drive and on the street, and that brought to the attention that there's nothing in our record showing that the business use was approved in a residential zoned area. So the purpose of this hearing is then to try to bring you into compliance with the zoning code, and the way that it would be done, if it's granted by the BZA, would be that a special use exception would be granted to allow home occupation use. Under home occupation, an ancillary building can be used for that purpose. It doesn't have to be out of the home itself. So a garage, doing a business there is permissible. And then there would be a variance granted with regard to some of the requirements related to home occupation use. One of the variances would be for increasing the square footage area that can be used in the garage for the business. Under the zoning code, it's limited to 500 square feet unless that's approved differently. So I'm assuming that you're using your garage more so than 500 square feet.
Probably right around there. When you pull in my door, I just got one lid, and basically I just use that one area. The rest, we got some drill press, and lathes, machine stuff.
But that's all used in conjunction with the business, is it not? I mean, are you
Yeah,
using...
but none of that.
None of that is used
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
repair business?
My dad worked in a foundry for 38 years. He always did machine work, and that's just basically his little toy area.
Okay.
Is that area used right now? Is that other area where the machines are
No,
at, it's not used anymore?
no.
Just sitting there and...
Okay.
Okay.
So then, if he's only using that 500 feet, is that, how do we,
If you're saying you
I
only...
don't know how many square feet it is.
Yeah.
It's probably actually, the building's 32 by 64. And the front part of it's probably maybe like 30 by 20, so that's what I used to work with,
Okay, so roughly 600 square feet then, if...
somewhere around there.
Okay, so
so you're allowed 500 then?
500, so
we'd
you
have
would need
to
a
make
variance for an
variance
additional
for
100 square
that.
feet if that's what it is. Do you do work outside of the garage area?
So what work I got, what I do in my shop.
Okay, I mean, you're not working on vehicles outside of the garage?
No, I keep everything in the shop. Sometimes I'll get too many there, but
Okay.
So any more questions from the board?
What happens when you get things stacked up? I mean, too many vehicles around the area. And that seems to be the complaint, I guess, from the neighborhood.
usually when they get stacked up too much, they just get built up, and I try to get them out of there as fast as I can. But sometimes you gotta wait to get apart, and just can't get it out.
Can you foresee an alternative to maybe trying to keep that limited down
Tell
to
people not to bring them till get the other ones out of the way.
If the board granted what you're requesting, Mr. Gamble, and limited the number of vehicles can be parked in your drive and not allow parking on the street, is that something that you can live with?
Yeah.
And if, do you ever envision that you might move your business to a different location?
Yeah, someday if I can get everything going the way I want, and get the money to do it.
Okay.
Are some of the vehicles on the street, parked on the street?
Most vehicles get parked on the street, like the ones I drive. Because I got 2 diesel trucks, and my dad's vehicle, he's usually down there, keep it out on the street. And my sister's car's down there right now, so she's got it parked out there. And I got one truck in the driveway next to me, a truck I bought, but hopefully by next week I got everything done. I'm purchasing the land, the house, and 2 more lots next to me for a rental.
How about part storage? Are you storing any parts outside? Or
Yeah, I just buy the parts as I need them.
So your own personal vehicles, you're parking basically on your street. Your dad's vehicle's on the street,
Yeah, a lot of times when
And
you
then-
get down, if you don't drive the golf cart, he'll park the truck out.
and then your sister, like you say, your
Yeah,
sister,
it's
when
out
she's...
the road right now.
Okay.
How big is the outside parking area?
I'm going to say it's somewhere around probably 50 foot.
How many,
width of the lot?
how many
It's the width of
vehicles?
the lot.
Width of the-
I think it's 50 foot. 45 from the door, not to the road.
How many vehicles are you
47.
parking in there?
47. Right now, I got there's 3 cars in the lot. And I got a Bobcat parked there. And a forklift.
Are you working on those too, or?
Yeah, I am.
So maybe a lot of the vehicles that are seen out there are, at least several of the vehicles are yours, or your
Yeah,
family.
Plus, I got between mine and my stepkids, there's 3 teenage daughters, so there's always someone at the house too.
Their vehicles or somebody
Yeah,
visiting.
everyone that comes over drives a vehicle, so a lot of times,
Mhm.
with 3 teenage kids, the vehicles pile up pretty quick, they're driving too.
I think probably our biggest concern is not personal vehicles, it's more the vehicles that are sitting in the lot and staying in the lot and for an undetermined amount of time. I think that's part of the issue here.
There was a yellow truck parked in the lot for a long time, I pulled it in. My dad gave me that truck in the 3rd grade, so I just pulled it in, stuck a motor in it, getting ready to get it ready. It'll be a winter vehicle, 4-wheel drive, because the diesels I got, they're 2-wheel drive, and in the wintertime, they ain't good. The other one's a 05 Chevy. It was wrecked, fixed it, and I got a guy in December coming to pick it up. Actually sold it, but he don't live around here. The other one was a 41 Ford pickup. Just got it running. I'm getting ready to change the wheel, rear end, put disc brakes and everything in it, and it'll probably go to auction.
Well, I guess the issue that we're trying to get at is what seems to be the congestion around, on your street and the property itself. And just trying to resolve that with the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah. I can understand that.
And, I don't know, with so many personal vehicles that you have, I don't know, how do you resolve that? I don't know. But you talked about maybe purchasing another lot or 2.
Yeah, I'm in the process. Actually, I just got done with the bank yesterday by the first of the week. A lady that lives across from me, she owns the house and 2 empty lots that'd be to the south of Esther. And we worked out an agreement on price, so I'm buying it.
So you're hoping that will alleviate the problems of the neighborhood there, or at least the complaints?
Yeah.
So what do you plan to do with those lots?
The empty lots?
Yeah.
Well, if anything, for like a lot of my stuff, I was going to put maybe where the two lots were, maybe put like a parking garage up or where I could park in. A lot of the stuff I don't drive on a daily basis.
See, and then you're back to the same thing we're in now. You get an accessory structure there before you get the principal building up. That would require a variance also.
Well, it's got a garage on it, I could put some in it.
So,
Because if I rent the house out, they ain't getting the garage.
Is a garage a detached garage?
Yeah, it ain't hooked to the house.
okay.
Just say that's
Alone on those two vacant lots, or does it sit on the lot?
It sits on the lot with the house.
See, that's acceptable, but trying to put an accessory structure or a separate garage on those two empty lots would be, in an R1, yeah, you need a variance to
Put a garage up?
put a garage up before the principal structure is put up, which is a residence. So that would require a variance before you can do anything like that. So,
Anything else? Okay, thank you. The board will now hear comments from people in opposition, so if you will, step up to the microphone and, or, yeah, state your name and address. And
My name is Leah Thomas, and I live at 845 North 10th Street, and the house immediately north on the same side as Mark. I think one thing that Mark left out in his favor is that he has a business at his house and has a family of 4 children. I think this is where he makes his living, and I also think that he has a family with a business. And I feel sympathetic to that. This has been going on for some time. It started out as his father always told me that he was a tinkerer, and he was just going to use the garage too. So when I found out it was a business, I tried to get someone to come down and give him a ticket for it or something, and that never happened. But that's old history. Right now usually he has about 10 cars parked around his house. Some on the lot where the business is, some in his yard, and some on the street. The Gambles own a lot of property on our street, and now that they're buying the one next door, they're even going to be owning more. They are collectors, and they have a lot of rusted things, and it totally looks like a junkyard at times. I know Mark is over there working hard on his cars, but the way it's presented, it looks like a junkyard. Now, I live right across the street from Decatur Industries. And every one of their cars is parked just right into every slot. They are constantly improving their building. It's a pleasure to live across the street from them. I realize I'm in a business-type area. When the foundry was over there, you know, it was a business too, but since we don't have that, and actually when I first moved in, the neighborhood seemed to be perking up. Well, that changed. Mark's father used to have all this stuff down on his property, which is at the corner of Dayton and 10th Street. And I knew when he built this building, it was all going to move down, and that's what it did. And he has a pretty good business. I think maybe he was also for a car sales place out on 13th Street. But his business has picked up, and he's gone from cars to trucks now. So that makes it even a larger overflow. Personally, I would be happy if he would just find a way to park his cars a little neater. They all look like they're on top of each other. There's no organization to it. He's been trying, I think, but I'm not sure it's his nature. His backyard, which you probably have no jurisdiction over, is just filled with stuff, including an open above-the-ground swimming pool, and they removed the gate so it's an open above-the-ground swimming pool, which I don't think is too safe. But that's nothing to do with this. The cars out on the driveway, out on the parking, they always park in front of my house, which I don't care, I don't use that place, but it becomes an annoyance when I have people coming in and they say, what's going on next door? Right now, he has a trailer with a truck on it, out in front on the street, and then he has various other cars, and, I don't know who they belong to. We did have one removed not too long ago that sat there with a flat tire. It was a soft water truck and sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks. I would be happy if he would just get organized at the front of his house. And then, he'll have the cars in there, and then in his yard, and I realize he has children, he'll have 3 bicycles, two wheelchairs, it just doesn't look good. And I know there's a lot of neighborhoods that are like that. But this one, because it's a business, I think should be looked into, because it's only going to grow, I think, and that's what's happened with it. It started out small, and now it's growing. And if he's got this property next door, you can bet your life on he's going to have cars parking on those empty lots. So I would like to be a good neighbor and say that if this is where he's going to have his business, that's fine with me, but he needs to keep it up as a business, and there should be some restriction with the amount of footage he has in his driveways, that so many cars can be used in that space. I mean, like he could do 5 cars, 2 cars in his own space, 5 cars on the other space, and not have any out on the street. And he could make appointments. Donnie Brown over there, if you drive by Donnie Brown's auto shop, he has several cars that he's working on, but he has a property that's large enough, and they are all in uniform order for the way they're parked. So my biggest thing is just to kind of get rid of all, I mean, you come in, you look down the street, and all you can see is cars and trucks, and it's just unsightly for a residential neighborhood. But I think if he could contain himself and move it in off the street, and I don't care if he has those lots that he just bought and they all turn out to be an automobile place to park all those automobiles. I don't care about that. Actually, I think for the benefit of all of us, if we turn the whole neighborhood into business zoning, we, the homeowners, might come out better in the end. For instance, AEP is wanting to buy Mrs. Gamble's house. You can bet they're going to be making some money on that. My house has gone down like the since he moved in next to me. He has an overwhelming size house, Mark does, and then all this trash in front. And, everybody's trash is different. He calls it his wonderful automobiles to take care of, and I call it trash. They have a lot of those little bobcats from the what was the name of the... Gator Taxi? Thank you, from Gator Taxi. You know those fellas. I think he has maybe 3 or 4 of them, Earl does, and they're just, some of them in the backyard, some of them are sometimes out in front. I don't want to take that stuff away from anybody, but they just need to neaten it up. I do not hear the noise that goes on over there at all. The family themselves are very quiet. It's just the clutter of all the cars.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
And I think if you're going to do this, give him the zoning, it will come up again by other neighbors to do business on the property. I don't know what kind of zoning AEP is going to get for Dolly's property right in the corner. I think it's a bigger question.
Well, the one thing that creates potentially an issue is if you change the zoning classification for just one property and everything around it is zoned differently, it's called spot zoning, and our ordinance tries to not allow that. So, on the other hand, if you've got a number of neighbors that all want to go together and have their property rezoned for another classification, then the neighbors can certainly petition for that to be done.
See, I think the benefit would be because it definitely is an industrial area. And if the board that brings businesses in, that would be a real nice
Yeah.
property for them, the whole street.
The point of today's hearing is not to rezone the
Yeah.
property. What it's designed to do is keep it zoned as residential, but allow a home occupation use to be made of that property as it's currently
And
zoned.
what is home occupation? You know, I think of hairdressers and,
Well,
but this is a good size.
yeah, it's any use that's permitted by the Board of Zoning Appeals under our code. But it's just,
I can bet you dime to dollar, although maybe you'll not do it now, if I say so, that the cars will wind up on those empty lots.
so are you opposed to that, or are you not?
Well, you know, I'm old, I'm not going to do that. But it doesn't help the neighborhood, and especially if he does it in the way that he's done his house. You know, if he could, the white trucks down at the end of the street, those little white trucks that go around to your house, and they're service trucks of some sort. That man had just tons of those down there, but he had them parked neat. And he never had old stuff laying out in front, old tires, old rusted metal stuff. He never had that. Anytime a project is finished, all the stuff goes out in front. And Mark's been very busy with his house. It's a huge house next to my little cottage. I've become about this big in the neighborhood, which is fine, I don't care. But I think that because of past history, that if you're going to give him the business permit, that it needs to have some restrictions, and those need to be followed. And if they're not, I think then something needs to be done about it, and what that is, that's what you have to decide. So that's all I have.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? State your name and address and...
Yeah, Keith Gerber. I'm a business owner on 906 North 10th Street called Hoosier Pattern. I don't wish the Gambles any hardship for the business that they're trying to run there. The biggest thing that I see for, well, I've had probably a handful of trucks that come to my business that, because of congestion on both sides of the street in front of the Gambles place, at times they come down Dayton, come north on 10th, or they come Meaver Street. Has caused some issues of getting a full-size semi down through there. The other thing, as Mrs. Thomas spoke about, during the summer there was a lot of engine noise, and that doesn't affect me as a business owner, but for residents trying to, like in her case, wanting to retire and be in her golden years, I thought, man, what a thing to have to sit there and listen to that engine noise all the time. I mean, like she spoke, Brown's Garage, he has a nice facility over there, and he keep all his cars on his parking lot, not out in the street. You hardly ever hear any engine noise coming out of that building. So, you know, like I said, I don't wish any hardship against the Gambles, but I just think that it's zoned for R. It's zoned for residential. It should remain that way. He is running a business out of there, and I just think he needs to take that somewhere else. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Does the board have any questions, Keith?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
I do have one
Do you?
question for Keith. Yeah, Keith, the primary concern that you have from your perspective is the congestion on the streets. So if that's eliminated, that would eliminate the problem of your trucks getting in and out to your business?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I guess, you know, just hearing Mark talk,
Yeah.
if he's buying these additional lots, is that just going to increase the amount of trucks and cars down here? I mean, I don't know that.
Mhm.
I mean, that'd have to be something that has to be monitored. If he plans on, I just think if his business is growing, he needs to find a place that can occupy the amount of trucks and cars that he's working on. And I don't know if he can do that within that space he's got right now.
The only thing I've got with the parking on the street is, and I don't know if there is parking on both sides of the street down I did look into that, but, you know, if the cars are plated legally and insured, I don't know if there's a lot we can do with that. You know, from our standpoint, I think it's
Yeah,
not...
it's not regulated parking in the sense that it's limited to a specific time,
Right.
or it's restricted to the number of vehicles. I mean, it's kind of a first come, first serve on the city streets in areas where, you know, there's no limitation. Now, I think you can't leave a car parked there indefinitely. I think there are some,
Yeah, you know, like the old GE, there was, when that was in business, there was limited parking from certain time frames.
right.
You know.
What you don't understand is, can you, or maybe I should ask the question another way, can you park on both sides of the street down there?
Street there, I couldn't-
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
generally
Yeah,
the rule,
yeah.
and there's enough room for everybody to pass through there then,
One lane.
just one lane.
Because he will often have cars on both sides of the street.
Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition or?
I just want to say that the last time I was here, I thought there was some hope that it wouldn't be a business, but I'm concerned about your ability to enforce anything that is said today, other than that he can have it as a business zone, like the number of cars he has out in front and the number of cars he has in the driveway, and using the other property for cars, and I don't know if swimming pools are supposed to have gates all the way around them, but it's open, and I would wander back there, it's an open pool. I just don't know what the rules are.
But we can enforce those kind of things at the time of construction, but after they're put up and then start to be occupied by the property owner, they decide to take the ladder off or the gates down or anything, then it becomes a liability on their part. I mean, the city we'd have no liability.
Somebody drowns in there, doesn't mark their front door.
We couldn't possibly look after all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, Roger, I'm not sure what you can look after. When you went in there with this big pole barn, and you told him this is residential, and he wasn't going to have a business there, and his father said, well, he was just a tinkerer. And his car started to mount up. I called, and you told me that if you went down to, you couldn't take my word for it, that it was a business, and that if you went down and see everything that's not being used correctly, you wouldn't get that kind of business done. You sent me over to the sheriff, do that. He sent me back to Fred Dish, who had his comments and said to call Roger. So
Yeah.
I just don't know. The letter that you sent out several months ago, I thought was very strong. If you didn't do such and such by a certain time, you were going to take an action. And no action was ever taken because I guess you didn't do stuff that you wanted. But that's what I'm saying. You know, you can put down on paper anything you want to about change, you know, that he needs to do this and this. But if nobody is monitoring it, you may just...
No, maybe Tim, you could
Well,
on the enforcement part,
yeah.
because it is difficult.
Yeah.
I don't have
Our
great tickets.
the city's philosophy has always been to try to work with businesses and property owners to try to find a balance. We're not trying to jam anything down anybody's throat. We're not trying to ignore the problem that exists. We're trying to find a solution. And I'll give you an example, is the Craig property over here. The city for 2 years worked with these people, begged them, tried to prod them to get something done, and eventually...
Letters, the same type of situation
Yeah.
to try to get it.
But it was one of those things where we wanted to see the change made, and we didn't want to force the issue by tearing the building down. To answer your question in terms of the enforcement, if the special use exception is granted and a variance would be granted to allow the business to continue, One of the conditions that could be imposed is that this is going to be reviewed on an annual basis, and if there's violations of the conditions that are imposed, then the granting of the variance and special use exception would be revoked, and the business would be shut down. I can't imagine that Mr. Gamble would like to see that happen. So that's the enforcement capability that the city would have if it chose to go that route. We're hoping that by virtue of today's hearing, that Mr. Gamble understands the concerns of the neighborhood, and that he on his own will take effort or make effort to address those concerns in a way that eliminates the issues that are being raised. And the conditions, if they are included in some type of grant, would be subject to periodic monitoring, and if we find that there are continued violations of it, then there'll be another hearing held to determine whether the grant would continue to exist. If that happens and the grant is revoked, then Mr. Gamble would be shut down, and if he continues to do business, he'd be in court. It's that simple. Okay? And we don't want to go there. That's not our point. We don't want that to happen. What we want is to try to find a balance that accommodates Mr. Gamble's needs in terms of operating his business that's been there for some time now, but also addresses the concerns that are being raised by the neighbors. Okay?
We're ready to move on, I hope. Is there any comments from people in favor? If so, step forward. Is there any final questions or?
Well, Mr. Gamble was going to make some remark. He had his hand up, I believe, didn't he?
Yes. Why don't you step up here?
For a minute, when we was talking about the swimming pool and everything, I thought this was over the business. If we got a problem with the swimming pool or bicycles in the yard, all anyone has to do is ask or say something to me. We can move bicycles around. And we have 5 kids at my house that are mine. So yeah, we do get bicycles and stuff in the yard.
And it wouldn't matter if you didn't have all those cars there. You would know.
Well, it's just like the swimming pool, that's on 839, that wasn't about 833. I thought the reason we was here was for 833.
It is.
Correct.
It is. Yeah.
Any problems with the house, you can ask me and I'll do what I can to help.
You shouldn't have to ask you. You should be able to know how to live in it.
Well, bicycles are in a residential.
That's right.
We got 5 kids and a
But we've
friend.
got the whole rest of it.
Okay, just
on
keep
there.
going.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of the other side of the whatever, on the other property. If there's nobody to speak in favor, then does the board have any comments? As far as restrictions, we do that now.
If you grant the request, then you can consider any conditions that you want to put on that. If you deny it, then you don't have to address the
Okay.
conditions.
Is there any, Bill, you were going to say something? No.
I don't know when to ask this, but I guess I have a question for Mr. Gamble. Do you think you can alleviate some of the congestion, or at least the congestion that's the problem down there, and maybe not add to it,
Yeah.
with some kind of a plan to get the vehicles in on time and get them out on time, and try to keep the street cleared and things in orderly fashion, to where everybody can live together in harmony. And, if you're willing to do that and give it a try, I think we can take a look at this thing objectively.
Mr. Gamble, how many parking spaces do you have in your drive itself? In other words, how many vehicles can be parked there?
on the 833, I park straight, nice. 4 to 5 still have room in and out. No problem.
And you have 4 or 5 vehicles that you own personally?
I have 1 inside and 2 outside right now that I drive on the outside.
But didn't you say that you had...
When my dad comes down, he's got his little Bronco, which he comes down every day.
Okay. But I mean, that's not parked there all the time?
No.
Okay. So you have basically three vehicles that you're using?
That I keep right there in that area.
How many do you normally have parked that you're going to work on or are associated with the business?
Usually there's somewhere around 3 to 4 other vehicles there. But like I said, at times people will come dragging them, wanting to,
Is there a way you can control that?
yeah, not let them bring them. Tell them we'll have to wait to bring them till it's room
I
to
guess the
bring.
question should have been, will you control that?
I can do the best I can. You tell them not to bring them. If they bring them, just tell them to take them back with them.
I mean, nobody wants to see anybody's livelihood go away,
That's right.
but there are restrictions, there are rules we need to follow, and I'm all for granting this thing, probably, if we can follow some rules and restrictions and see this is cleaned up, and so everybody can, like Bill said, everybody can get along.
If you have 5 parking spots that would still allow you to get in and out of your garage, if I understood correctly, and you have 3 vehicles, can you limit the number of vehicles that are parked outside in your drive to 2 that you're working on, maybe have 1 in the garage, and not allow any more than that, so that you're not parking on the street, either for your personal vehicles or vehicles you're going to work on? I mean, is that possible? Do you have a comment over there?
I just
Oh,
have a
I'm sorry.
comment Because they are purchasing the property right behind my property. I do not want to see all those other vehicles being moved over onto those empty lots back there, because that's right behind my property. There's no fence, there's no trees. They would just be right there in the open. And that I do not want to see. I mean, they're purchasing that land and property for some reason. I don't want to see all those vehicles just being moved down on that property.
So, what was your name, ma'am? I'm sorry.
I'm Cindy Keene, and I live at 828 North 11th Street.
Okay.
And I have no problem, I just don't want the vehicles being pushed down onto the empty property.
Yeah, it's,
I think Mark
Yes, Leah.
underestimates the number of cars he has. I count every day. He has 10 cars. Sometimes his father down on Dayton and 10th Street has 10 cars. They own other property. They will have cars parked on some of the other property once in a while. And so it's more vehicles than 5. He has a place for 5 by his pole barn, so he could park 5 cars being worked on. Then he has a driveway next to his house, and he could park 2 personal cars, if that's the way you want to do it. But it's sometimes 10 cars. Right now, I have a hauler with a truck on it in front of my house. So, and it's different kind of thing.
is it parked there?
Mm-hmm.
It's been there all day. Going to stay, Mark?
I pulled up with my truck and trailer last night in front of the house.
In front of my house.
That's your vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to deprive him of his job, but I know he can do better. And it's
And usually I try to keep the trailer down at, it'd be, what's the address on that?
703?
703. Niece lives there. She don't drive nothing, so I keep the trailer easily in that driveway.
the one thing about the back, I didn't notice today when I was looking at the back of his house, where he has his backyard and the pole barn. Very nice fence. If you look at it from 11th Street, but what she's talking about, it is all open. He would have to, if he's going to park cars there, well, he'd have to get the variance from you and then.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
going to be a different
completely
issue at a different time.
Issue, yeah.
I mean, that would be addressed at a different time. So, Mr. Gamble, I guess I go back to my question to you then. You're saying you can live with some restrictions on the number of vehicles that would be parked in the drive in front of your garage. And you said you have a separate drive that you can park your personal vehicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that actually close to your house, or I guess I'm not familiar with all the numbers down, or the houses. Is it where you're going to park your personal vehicles, or you can?
I got one on 839. I got a drive that comes up to the house. Where you can park one right there, pull up in front of the house. But use like keep the trailer down on 703 Dayton. In front of the other garage. And then back that thing.
So basically, if we would restrict you to those number of parking spots to 5, you could live with that, but I don't know that we can do anything as far as the city street itself, can we? I mean, unless the city...
Well, I think the only thing you
Be
could
no
do is
parking.
you could as a condition of granting the special use exception, you probably can impose that you limit the number of vehicles that are parked on the street to personal vehicles, and maybe limit it to 1, and then that gives you 2 additional parked in your drive, and then you've got room for 2 or 3 other vehicles that you're working on, and that would be the extent of what you can do. And what I would encourage you to do is do it as neatly as you can, because if you do, then that should address some of the other concerns that have been raised today. If that doesn't happen, or if it's, if this is granted by the board and that's a condition that's imposed, then if neighbors bring in photographs showing that you're in violation of this, and it's something that's not just an isolated incident, but it's ongoing, then, you're going to be brought back in here, and the grant of the variance and the special use will probably be revoked. So, that's the option, and, we're trying to find a way to balance this. And if you want to cooperate with the city, that's great, because we're willing to cooperate with you, but if you don't, then the city will take action. So it's up to the board whether you want to act today, if you want to table it, and if you do act today and it is granted, then if you are going to include conditions, those need to be included with the findings of fact. One other question I had that addresses the issue that Keith raised about the noise. What are your business hours, Mr. Gamble? Do you work on vehicles in the evenings?
Yeah. Morning, evening. Definitely noise down there.
I mean, are you capable of doing work that if you're running engines and it's creating noise that's heard from the outside, that you can do that during the day as opposed to in the evening?
Would that be like restricting it from, say, 8 to 5? Would that work? I mean, as far as noise and then...
mean, he can still work in there in the evening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, if you're doing stuff that isn't causing a lot of noise, it doesn't mean that you couldn't be in there doing work. It's just that if that's an issue, then that may be another way to address that.
Okay, is there any other final questions, board?
I guess I have a question about the properties across the street that you're acquiring, or is it
Thanks. South.
next, south of you?
Yeah.
You're going to rent that property out, is that what you're doing? So you're not adding more vehicles over there?
I'm not tearing the house down, making a parking lot, I'm renting the house out.
Okay.
This way, hopefully, rent it out, put a little work into it, later on, it'll be a source of income for me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think the whole issue, we're back to parking spots, what I've observed from this.
The congestion,
Right.
the neighborhood appearance and the congestion.
Okay, so are we ready to read the special exception is for,
Granting a home occupation use in an
Okay.
R1 zone.
I don't know where.
and with that, does that include any of the parking spaces or anything like that, or
It would be, you could...
put that on there?
Put
or
that
on
as
the
conditions.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to grant the special use exception to allow home occupation use, that's where you would include the conditions.
Okay.
At the time that we're doing this,
Pardon?
or after?
Yes.
No, you do it at the time before you, in other words, if you're approving it on certain conditions being met, then you have to identify what those conditions are. Could be restricting the business hours, could be restricting the number of vehicles that are allowed to be parked on site or on the street. It could be prohibiting storage of parts, outside.
Can I add something here too? Jim?
Absolutely.
Kind of maybe what I'd like to see is, how about tabling this and giving him a trial period to see if he can actually maintain the parking and keep it organized, like you're hoping that happens, or anticipating will happen, before that variance is granted. Address it again at a later date, I don't know, just a thought.
I kind of agree with that. I think,
I
monitor it for a while.
I concur.
Come back. Let's see if you can actually do it. You might not be able to do it. If you can't do it, then we'll know.
Let's just see if it gets any better in the next, whatever, or time frame you decide.
And, for your sake, Mr. Gamble, we hope it does. We hope it works.
What's gonna happen during the winter time? We have all the snow on the street, where's he gonna park his cars in?
Yeah,
Well, I guess
but that's a problem we have in other...
It's a problem on every street that you have in the city, Keith. I mean, it's not unique to that street. As a common courtesy, you would think that people would
Get 'em off this
make
street,
sure
get 'em
that
off this
they're out of the way so the plow can get through. We have a problem with that throughout the city, especially some of the narrower streets.
I guess his only advantage is if he can move the cars, he's got a bobcat clean his own.
And I can go to bring them down.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is to that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's not, I guess the bottom line, Mr. Gamble, is you understand the concern. You understand the concern about the congestion, you understand the concern about the unsightliness. If you can improve those and keep it that way, you know, you should be able to get along with your neighbors.
Now, I talked with Mark before about this. He says, the only worst enemy, if you keep the place cleaned up, polished up down there,
Yeah, I got
a
it.
lot of these issues.
We have a photo here from March. I don't remember, I don't see the date, but anyway, it was March, and there's all kinds of debris piled outside the building. I mean, just little things like that would make a big difference. I'm sure the neighbors would be really thankful if you just clean that up. There's plastic drums, tires, junk, and it needs to be picked up.
Yeah, that's the whole, you know, to me, that's the issue, what I see is, you just need kept clean outside and organized outside. It doesn't appear to be a nuisance business now,
Well,
So do we need a motion then?
if you are so
With
inclined
these
that you want to
restrictions.
table this until, you know, you can't table it indefinitely, but if you wanted to table it to a meeting after the first of the year, then that gives you an opportunity to
Sometime after.
see what you can do to improve things. And, you know, I would encourage Keith, the neighbors, take pictures. If there's problems and they continue to exist, bring them in at the time we address this.
document them, that's all.
That'll be made part of the record, and, you know, if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do.
If we table this, do we need to put, I mean, we can't put the restrictions on it now.
No,
Or
you're-
just,
What we're telling Mr. Gamble is, he understands what it's probably going to take. I mean, I think you got to limit the
Business
number of vehicles you're working on. I think you got to try to keep your vehicles, your own vehicles, parked in your drive and off the street, and you got to keep it looking sightly. You do that, then I think it eliminates the congestion issue. If you can limit the noise to normal business hours, so that you're not working on engines at night, that would be good too. And I think if you do that, then you're addressing the issues that have been raised in opposition to this.
so is there a motion then to table this till first of the year?
I saw the,
I think we ought to make a motion to table it and put a limitation to where we could meet again maybe in January or February.
Probably.
3 months maybe, I don't know.
I'd say that's adequate time.
3 months? Is that too much?
I'd say that's generous.
yeah, pretty generous.
I would say the first of January.
Yeah, I think.
I think January too.
Somebody needs to make that in a complete motion, then
I just moved that we table till, I don't know what's the date.
I'd do the second normal meeting time in January, so it'd be,
Tuesday.
that gives you, that's basically a 60-day period then.
Whatever that date is, I so moved.
Yeah, it'd be
I
the
second that.
third Tuesday in January.
No, we haven't.
These are all old ones.
They're old.
It goes two, doesn't it?
Love that, don't you?
Yeah, the third Tuesday in January would be the 19th.
It's like the third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday would be January 19th.
So your motion was to table it till the 19th.
Of
See if
January.
things have improved. And there was a second by Bill.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it will be a table till January the 19th, and hope things improve.
And we certainly welcome all of you back then. Okay? Thanks.
Is there any other old business?
I don't have anything.
They're gonna make you look nice. It's a duplex,
I think they'll give us time to find out.
Sharon, is there any other old business, or Roger? Old business?
If,
Just our next meeting, December the 1st, I've got paperwork laid out on the counter.
Yeah.
do you have something else, Mr. Gamble?
Yeah, that was the January 19th, Tuesday, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, the third.
Right.
Third Tuesday,
What time is that?
4:30.
Probably 4:30, just like this.
Yep.
You understand what we're wanting you to
Yeah.
do?
Keep it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I was just getting confused there for a while, because once we got talking about the bicycles,
Well, that.
No, that's not-
Tendency to stray away from what
And
we're
like I
actually
said,
here for, yeah.
as far as the road goes, I can keep everything off the road, that ain't a big deal. But we've been having problems with people standing and looking over the fence, and I thought that was the purpose of having a privacy fence in a pool.
Okay,
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Tim, would it benefit the city to maybe have the police check out eliminating parking on the east side of 10th Street?
Well, that's a possibility, if that's,
Hammond, there you got a lot of traffic pulling in and out of parking.
yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that if Keith is concerned about, he might request that the city consider that. And then that would be up to the city to take a look at it to see
I never
if
see
it
anybody
if it
park
makes.
on the street, down in front of his section, but the
Right.
residential
Right.
section, you see some cars.
Exactly.
Oh, there
I
was,
haven't-
Most of those people on that east side, they do all that driveways.
Well, and I do know that recently the city made took out a fence and kind of cleared out an area to accommodate trucks that were coming into Keith. He was having a hard time getting them to back into the loading dock, and so what they did is they cleared out an area that allowed him to go onto the old casting property a bit in order for him to be able to, the truckers to be able to maneuver into where they needed to go.
And that's only going to be temporary till, maybe for a couple of years, till AEP gets done their improvements through there, and all them poles that have been causing them fits
Will disappear. They're going to take those out. So in time, that should resolve itself.
Resolve itself,
Right.
But if he's got semis coming in making deliveries or off of Washington, they would benefit from the extra
Well,
traffic flow all along 10th Street.
Mhm.
if they come off of Washington, or if they come straight in from Mybridge, they're fine. It's the ones that maybe don't know where they're going and
Right.
come off a date, and then
And try to come down.
maneuver around all the vehicles.
Right, right.
Those are the ones that have the issue.
Yep.
and it was a little tight tonight. I had to go to the paint, 'cause it's like,
Yeah, I
He
understand.
explained about the...
I drove by there earlier today, and there is a vehicle sitting on a trailer out in front, and there's a couple of pieces of machinery in the drive. Yeah, so it's not the most sightly conditions. I appreciate what the neighbors are saying.
Yeah, but it's not brand new equipment.
No.
Well, it's used.
No, but,
He's got something sitting there that he's had a plastic tarp over it, I don't think he's probably working on that.
right. So we'll give him an opportunity to prove himself. It's,
Can we legally limit how many cars a person can put on the street if they're plated and insured?
if you're granting a special use exception, you might be able to tie it to that as a condition. But normally, no. Normally if it's an operational vehicle and it's properly plated,
And it's a public
it's a
driveway.
public place that people can park, and there's not, you know, if you got 6 vehicles that are in one household and they all park on the street, they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it would be an inconvenience to the neighbors.
Right.
If he's parking right in front of their house, but...
Right. So,
This town has got 2 sides to their house.
Yeah.
At least got Myra Street.
She's on a corner lot.
On and on, at least. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I understand, you know, it's just the way some things just irritate people and it never will change.
yeah.
I don't blame you. It's just one of those things that's hard to, you know...
Well, and the other thing is,
It's just hard to enforce.
if he continues to grow, hopefully he starts looking around for a different place to do his business.
You mentioned too that he's been approached by Bungie to purchase quite a bit of property along the railroad track, because Bungie is landlocked along there. I mean, in Decatur,
hmm
of course, you know, that might be wishful thinking too.
Well,
Definitely a possibility.
yeah.
Which is one I'd like to see happen.
I apologize for not keeping things rolling a little bit quicker.
No,
Greg does a little bit better job of that.
no, I think, honestly, it gave everybody a chance to have their say, you know, and so they can't come back later on and say, well, you cut me off, or you didn't let me have an opportunity to say what I wanted
You could get
to.
elected chairman next year and you get more experience.
No. Just said, yes, I'll stay on the board today, and it's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one, though. You know, it's like, people got some nice houses there.
Yeah, and I understand.
I don't
not-
blame you one bit.
The problem is that, you know, this business has been there a long time, and it's, yeah, it has grown, but it's been there. So how do you now tell him to
Can't do
just shut down? I mean,
Ben Daniels come in front of the board before I started. He got the okay to put up a building of that size. And then and it was just to store his antique cars and whatever, you know, it's just the way they presented it. And then he got sick and it never happened. And, you know, he ended up dying, and
Gamble's bought it, and then they turned it into something else.
Yeah, well, they turned it in, you know,
Went from a hobby to a business.
somewhere along the line, I don't know, we don't have any record of any previous meetings with them, but somewhere along the line, they got that building. And I swear they come up in front of the board, but it must have just been one just to talk with the board or something, because we never had a, obviously.
There's nothing
we don't have any-
in the minutes that shows.
We went through minutes from the, clear back in 1990 all the way up to date, and you can't find one application, one, anything in the minutes, and nothing. You know, and but that's what happened when his dad built that thing, and all he did was fiddle with crap, and Mark probably wasn't very old then, you know, 15 years ago. Well, now he's...
He found his niche, that's for sure. He wouldn't.
Okay, new business is, next meeting's December 1st. Anything else?
We can take this with us? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So moved, Sarah. Make a motion.
Yeah, second. It's been moved and seconded. Yeah. Close the meeting. All in favor? Opposed?